What's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Clarus.
And this is Full Metal Alchemist, Brotherhood, episode 41 and 42. Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're in the 40s. We're almost as old as I am. If you want the full length reaction, go to patreon.com/nerdynightly. But if you don't, go to patreon.com/nerdynightly anyway, because I have bills to pay.
Because we asked nicely.
The student loans in the American system are coming back, and I've got to make those payments. So go to patreon.com/
Hilarious.
patreon.com/paynerdystudentloans. He was dumb and got a degree in musical theater.
Same. Except mine's only a diploma, so it's not
Yours
even as
was a
impressive.
lot cheaper than mine.
You're not wrong.
University's a scam. Let's do this.
Henry, are you okay?
I'm fine.
I've seen basketball players take less dramatic falls than that.
I thought it was soccer players.
No, they're not dramatic. They just fall. Basketball players like, whoa!
Oh.
Enough. Quit dawdling. They could already be after us.
That dynamite's going to be very important in about 20 minutes. The earrings and the dynamite.
And yet you're still willing to kill them for one. This isn't like it was with General Raven.
The problem isn't a lack of knowledge here. Ed knows what's up.
Okay, what do you... I don't understand.
You guys you're gonna kill a person?
Well, yeah, he's, been shown to feel...
Well, no, and this is the conversation they're having now.
Killing someone isn't as hard as letting them live.
I guess they like to go against the grain.
Yeah, but in a way, I envy their conviction.
Ed has become less and less okay with hurting people now that he knows what the Philosopher's Stones are.
That's fair.
We refer to an immortal as a Shinito. It means a true being. These true beings are considered to be perfect
A true soul? We follow the absolute.
Gold is considered the perfect metal. These beings are also sometimes called Aurelians.
May is the smartest 8-year-old on the planet.
The legend says he was an immortal with golden hair and eyes.
Hohenheim's been around.
Sounds like Ed and Al.
Yep. There's a reason that they look different than everyone else on the show.
Yup. One is because Al is a suit of armor, but
What?
I love the video game indicator arrow. My Alphonse. Oh god, do they end up together? That part of the epilogue is going to be super weird.
And his fallen refugee camp? It's not like we really have any other options.
Great idea, sir. Let's get going.
Sure.
They gotta go somewhere.
It's okay. Don't worry. Brother's got it all taken care of.
3 men in this...
It's so dumb.
Let's get going.
Yes, sir.
Don't get carried away, Alphonse. Come on, Kimberly's watching.
Hold on, brother!
Hurry up, come on.
This is so incredibly stupid.
I love it.
I guess he's figured us out then. We'll head them off. Position snipers near the opening of the mine shaft.
Yes, sir.
I mean, fuck, if we're doing that, I'm surprised I didn't just shoot him in the back just there.
Look, I want to catch Scar.
You're trying to buy some time for your snipers to get into position, aren't you?
You knew about that?
I can practically smell the murderous intent in the air around here.
Kieran.
Can you still target Kimberly?
Yes, sir.
Then aim carefully.
What would be in the way?
Kimberly! Son of a...
Oh, what the fuck? Oh great, more animal people.
Are you surprised?
No, not really.
Full Metal Alchemist.
It doesn't have to be in his mouth so sexually. You know what I mean? I should be concerned that Kimberly is going to find them, but he's walking so slow that I'm like, even if they just keep walking, they're going to stay ahead of him.
True.
Shut up! Stay out of here! Trust me!
Whoop!
Ow! Falling like that.
Oh my god, I thought that was through his body.
Oh.
Dynamite, huh? There's one perk to fighting in a mine.
I hope he just starts chucking dynamite at them.
Do you happen to know what dynamite's made of?
It's nitroglycerin, isn't it? And nitroglycol. And there's sawdust. Isn't there ammonium nitrate in it, too?
Very clever. I love that this just went like full Saturday morning cartoon. On the magic school bus.
Yeah.
He's fast.
Oh shit!
Too slow.
Oh, Ed doesn't know about the other.
That sense of mercy is about to get you in a lot of trouble.
And damn it.
You're kidding. No.
Oh my god.
Oh no! I'm being pulled back again.
What?
What the fuck?
I won't make her cry. Especially not over something this stupid.
I guess he could transmute the thing to be hot so that his wound cauterizes, right? Like he could transmute the metal to like sear his flesh closed.
Mm-hmm.
We were enemies just 5 minutes ago, and now you're asking us to save your life?
Yeah, basically.
All right.
With alchemy.
What? Have you ever performed any kind of medical alchemy before?
Sort of.
For some reason, I just assumed it was Aes Sedai rules where you can't heal yourself.
I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds like you're sure. Ready?
I am a philosopher's stone that's powered by a single soul.
Oh wow, that's fucking.
What it felt like at that moment.
Is this show gonna end with him giving his life to give Al his body back? Oh. That's rough, buddy.
Did he make it?
The fucking hair.
First things first. We gotta find him a doctor, right?
This music is so hype for this moment.
Yeah.
I am not always the biggest fan of Mercy. Just in general. I'm a big how many people are you gonna let die so that you don't kill one person is not math I ever want to do in my life. Thankfully, it's math I never have to do in my life. So it is kind of fun to watch people explore characters dealing with a question that I don't think I will ever be posed.
Yeah, right.
I'm definitely not on the Edward side of it, personally, and I know that about myself. But because the first chunk of this episode, I was kind of like, oh my god, like I get it, like I don't want to kill people, but also like they want to kill everybody in a country, so like maybe you gotta like do something about that. But the way that this episode went
does not stop that, right?
If he kills Winry in the mountain in 12 hours, Edward will feel differently about that. But for the way that this episode went, I really appreciated it, right? Like I found the first episode, the first part of it on its own wouldn't have been my favorite, but in the scope of this whole episode, I really do like it.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. And I'm really interested to see what the direction of the conversation about this is moving forward, and what our heroes are going to have to do in order to deal with the threat posed before them.
Yeah.
While also keeping their morality. It is interesting. Like the morality of our characters is fascinating to me because of the necromancy involved at the beginning of the show, and you know the lengths they've gone to in the past for the idea of regeneration, and that like
without knowing,
killing someone who is going to kill someone else is like against their moral code so strongly. It's just fascinating to me, considering they've done some very dark things, and they have definitely caused death before, even if they've not like directly killed anybody, right?
How?
Well, just some of the fights. It's kind of impossible for people not to have died as a result of fights that they were a part of.
Oh, you just
like,
mean like in the cities?
It's impossible to imagine. It's like the like joke that like when you're playing Spider-Man PS4, right, the video game, and you're knocking people off of buildings, and the joke is that like if you swing by, there are like bodies sticking to the side of the building. But if you think about the momentum of a body flying off of a building, then getting caught by web and swinging back into a metal structure, statistically, Spider-Man in that game kills 1 in 6 people. He kicks off of a building, right? And there are a number of finishers that throw people off of buildings head first. Right. It's the same thing here where like the idea that the fights that we have witnessed, even the ones that aren't like life or death, like the one with the Jingi's ninja people when they first fight, that I was like, this fight is ridiculous. Yeah. That people die in those. And there's just simply, you go back to the pilot, like those walls that just went through buildings, like people died. And the idea that like our heroes are bloodless in this show is kind of like, sure.
Well, I mean, they are technically, because the show doesn't ever say that people died. Obviously, like,
yeah, it's a stretch.
Logically, that's an impossibility, but that's it. That's just an anime thing, I feel like.
Yeah, it's also just it's one of those things where like there's just been so many guns in this show, and guns are so prevalent, and guns aren't non-lethal. And so it's just like Ed and I have been around so many times where the police have been shooting at people for them to be like, no, don't use guns this time. And it's like, well, regular people don't have alchemy. Like, what do you want them to do?
Well, but that's why, like I said, that their perspective has changed throughout the show on death, especially after figuring out what a Philosopher's Stone is.
Sure. My point is that, like, what does Ed think? You know, but I mean here, right? Ed wants them to bring in Kimberly non-lethally. In what world is that possible, right? And like that, I think that Ed is in his like super powered state being very unfair to the reality that normal people around him live with. Well, where Kimberly is a god with a Philosopher's Stone and super magic powers, right? Yeah. And these are normal dudes who are like, no, we're gonna use our guns because that guy has superpowers and we don't, and we have to stop him from killing everybody we know.
Yeah, that's why you get their perspective and their whole conversation about it.
Oh, 100%. I'm saying that like I'm not saying that Ed's wrong. I think that Ed is being unfair to the situation that the other people are in because he has superpowers and he doesn't.
But Ed isn't like judging them.
Well, he's saying don't kill them. Ed is saying like don't. Ed is basically saying don't participate. I have to do all of this myself because there's literally nothing they can do against any of these people except shoot them.
I think Ed is just trying to like potentially resolve it without murder. Like, he doesn't tell those guys they better not, or, you know, like, he's gonna be upset about it. Like, they kind of make their peace, and he, like, doesn't really, like, fight and argue with them. He just tries his own tactics to
But he's saying that they can't, that he does say, like, don't kill them, right? Don't, but what I'm saying is that Ed is privileged in this, in that Ed is in a position where he can fight bad.
Yeah, that's why I think he doesn't like argue with them.
But I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm saying that he is not being fair to them in this. I think that Ed's privilege is showing in that he wants to fight a superpowered being with his superpowers, and is not being fair to the people in this situation who do not have those powers.
Yeah.
And like, if Ed had just allowed them to shoot Kimberly, that's dark, but a lot fewer people would die, right? And Ed intervened, and now a lot of people are going to die. Ed had to shave a few years off of his own life, and
Why do you think a lot of people are gonna die?
Because Kimberly is going to kill people.
Okay.
Like, expressly, that is what he's going to do. That's his only goal. And even he's like, you don't want to kill me. That's childish, right? Because I'm going to go kill your friends. The woman that you love, your brother, the little girl. You know what I mean? Like, Kimberly does not have the moral framework to stop him from doing that. And has expressly told Ed that is what he's going to go do.
Yeah.
And then he is going to go kill everybody in the North so that they can funnel all of that into a magic super bomb thing. And the other soldiers have guns, and that's it. They've got nothing else. And so to say, like, don't kill them, well, what do you want us to do? Stand there with our dicks out in the cold, watching them freeze? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that Ed is not being realistic to the situation that he is in here. And the stakes are a little bit more dire than I think that he realizes, because he is like, I've got superpowers and they're going to get me through it. And there's a lot of other people around him who are not going to get through it because they don't have those superpowers.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a noble thing for him to feel. You know, I think it is noble to feel that way. But in this world, it would be like Superman telling the cops not to use kryptonite guns against Zod, right? No, they're gonna use the kryptonite guns because Zod is going to kill everyone in Metropolis.
Right.
And it's fine. Like, I think it's interesting writing. It's not bad writing on the part of the writing is good.
Yeah.
And this episode really frames it really well. I just think that Ed is being unfair to people who don't have superpowers here.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's all I'm saying. And I think that it's presented really well. I do love that all of the chimeras immediately turn good. None of these chimeras are evil in their core at all.
Well, because they're just people that got fucking experimented on.
I know, but like, what did they think they were here to do?
They just have their orders, right? They're part of the military. And so they're like, all right, you know, our superiors told us this. They don't really give a shit until they give a shit. And then they start thinking and making choices for themselves, right? Because they've been manipulated into being tools, right? You don't have a family anymore. You can't go home. I'm the only one who's to give you purpose in these missions or whatever it is. And so, like, getting like a little bit of like autonomy back is it's one of the things that I buy into immediately, because they're like,
oh, I buy into it. I just think it's funny that like there's 4 of them and all 4 of them immediately are like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, the circumstances pretty much allowed for that. And also, you know, the information that the first 2 guys got about, oh, hey, yeah, the people that you're working for are going to sacrifice everyone in this country. And they're like, I'm sorry, come again?
But that's why I want to know, like, what did they know going into this mission? Because
probably nothing. They're like, oh, this guy, he's like a liability and is potentially dangerous. You got to keep an eye on him, listen to Kimberly, and that's it. Like, right?
It's super strange. It's a weird world. Let's get into the next episode. Sorry, that was a long talk. Did she take him apart? Wow, that's fucking dark.
They bury the meaning of their notes beneath a layer of metaphor and allegory. But these are almost straightforward. There's something else going on.
It's a nice callback to the recipe alchemy from earlier.
I didn't mean to freak you out like that. So where are we? And why am I in pieces?
As for why you're in pieces, you were too heavy to carry home. so we had to dismantle you.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Why don't we start putting you back together?
Please, if you don't mind.
Watch, they're gonna have, like, left a screw behind.
Oh, yes, seems to be. I guess we should reassemble him correctly.
I guess.
I guess so.
Reassemble the pieces.
Oh my god.
What? Come on. That's great.
Let me take a look at those other pages, Marco.
Golden, that connects over here.
I really want Al to be like, can anyone help me?
That's the last one.
Very cool. He's still in pieces!
Yeah.
They just fucking left him!
There was something more important, I guess.
It can't be.
How insane do you have to be to make that?
After all of your research, you couldn't see a way to stop this?
We've only broken the first code, and I bet there's more.
Put me together so I can see what you guys are looking at.
Yeah.
They're still leaving him in pieces.
It's fine. He's good.
That's gotta be it. You take a bad situation and you turn it around. There's two sides.
You do the hokey pokey.
It's a new Amestrian transmutation circle, but it's activated through Xinghe's alchemy instead.
Oh, interesting. They've hidden that throughout the whole show. That's so funny. Well done. Ooh. Oh.
You must be the Crimson Alchemist. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Well, if you insist that I carve the crest of blood at Briggs, I'd be happy to oblige you.
Remember when I said he's gonna go kill a bunch of people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. He's a bad, bad man.
You heard right. There was an explosion and...
The little bow tie in the bottom of his braid is so cute.
Yeah.
I hope he's all right.
Me too.
What a dapper man.
The border war at Pendleton was a massacre.
If the military was hoping for casualties...
Hot dog boy! There's a trench war going on? Well...
Trenches are easy when there's
This
alchemy.
is the largest small country in the world. Oh, that's so sad.
The time draws near. The day of reckoning is almost within our grasp. Full Metal Alchemist.
Full Metal Alchemist. Wow.
Line up! It's time to take a lunch break!
There goes the baker with her tray like always.
I miss her.
Hey, Rose, pilot high.
You know I can't.
May I have some food, if you don't mind?
He's so dramatic. Like, dude, you're immortal.
This is why he's dramatic.
You literally can't die.
And what's this?
The water turned toxic. No one's really sure how it happened.
So...
Wait!
Hey, what are you doing? That stuff will kill you!
Hohenheim's got some abilities.
Yep.
Found it right off the bat, didn't I?
Yep.
Let's see if I can trap it!
Trap shadows, dude.
Afraid that's all I've got.
Well, I tried two things. Guess I'm done.
My name is Pride.
Pride the arrogant. That makes sense. I can see your conceit. And the mere fact that he took the time and energy to give you his original appearance. That act alone shows how egotistical he truly
is. Got him.
Just tell him to be patient and relax in his chair beneath Central. I'm coming.
That's super interesting.
What exactly were you doing in there?
Sending a declaration of war.
It's dramatic.
I guess Father just didn't know where he was this whole time. That's why he was in that, like, small town.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, if you're gonna hide somewhere. What the fuck?
It's Drachma!
Or is it just alchemy fucking claymation characters?
Claymation! Oh my god.
We'll get them into battle stations and then attack them all from behind, right? Well, their battle readiness is elite, right? Wow. Alrighty.
Yep.
Oh, no, there's a post-credit scene.
Oh, you're right.
Wow. Wow. That was a lot.
Wow.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it.
Okay. A lot of new interesting information.
Yeah. I think, personally, there is some world building that I wish had been established better.
Okay.
I think that on the, like, individual level, there's a lot of really great stuff that is going on right now.
Yeah.
And I think that this episode introduced some macro level stuff that seems too far away considering the technology that these characters have access to.
Like what?
This country is at war on, like, 3 fronts right now, and everybody isn't talking about it. And that is very strange to me.
Isn't that just like the...
I'm one of Kimbley's soldiers. Dr. Marco and Scar are hiding out in the slums of Aspect Village.
You made the right move by telling me this, Zampano. And I promise that you'll be protected.
Oh, hey, Envy. Haven't seen you in a while.
Things are starting to look up.
Things are starting to look up.
I just mean, like, there are, like, people in who have our modern technology whose, like, governments withhold information sharing. You know, like, people who live in North Korea are fed the narrative that they are fed and don't really have the ability to find out truths about the world.
Yes.
Unless they go, like, looking for them and have the tools to do so.
Yes, but a Mistress doesn't function like that. Like, a Mistress is both, and I think that this is where the world building isn't quite connecting for me.
Okay.
A Mistress both has a free-moving economy of trains and phones and, like, radios that has all of these major cities that seem relatively calm. And on the edges, in every direction, there is, like, not just, like, a massacre, but there is a trench war going on their border. The Drachmans want to go to war today. And in order for a country as small as Amestris is to have the technology and manpower and ammunition to be fighting all of those fronts at once, the war machine within the country has to ramp up. That's just how it functions, right? There would be people selling war bonds. There would be the economy of this country would have to be solely wrapped up in fighting this many wars at once in this many close locations. That's just the economy of war. It is not possible for a country as small as this to be in this many conflicts and not be producing war as the engine of its economy, right?
Sure, that's just not very interesting to me. Like, I don't really, like, I don't need to see a town making, like, guns. Like,
But I'm not saying that you have to show, like, necessarily the ammunition building. But I think that it feels very much like, going into the morality question of the previous episode, Ed and Al and their like moral battle is very divorced from a country that is currently fighting multiple wars.
Yeah, because they're not involved in any
But
of it.
But they're at the heart of all of it, and the show has deliberately kept them from knowing that those things are happening. Like they were surprised. I was surprised to find out that they were surprised about Lior. Remember?
Yeah, like only the military is passing this information to one another. Like the normal people, like I don't think have any idea about what is happening outside of their immediate sphere.
And I think that the way that you can set that up is by having it be a society that's a little bit more segmented and have a little bit more of a lockdown in terms of movement and information. But the world that we've seen, every time we go to a train station, it's just a free moving country. It feels very casual. And when we're in these towns, and granted we haven't been in a town in a while, but whenever we're in Central, it doesn't feel like Central is a city at the center of a country that is at war. And I think that to me, it's lacking in a little bit of that like tension outside of our characters feeling tense. But like the country doesn't really feel like it is currently fighting a trench war.
It doesn't seem like it wants the people to know that.
You couldn't hide it. You just can't. Like there's no way, given the technology available in the show, that there could be a trench war 6 hours south of Central by train, and that information would be a secret. And that there could be another war 4 hours west of Central, and there could be armies at the gates 5 hours north of Central, and that there could be a city that is now rubble 6 hours west, and no one's talking about it. The country is small enough that you would know people. And because there's phones, because there's radios, this isn't like a medieval times where a messenger has to literally ride. People would have family in Lior. You know what I mean? People would know that these things are going on. And we haven't really seen, and this is what I mean, like the world building, we haven't seen them clamp down on information. We're assuming that they're doing that because the show doesn't really show how that functions.
Yeah, because Ed and Al are not connected to any of those things. They're
but the show
tunnel vision of their own like goals. They don't really, they're not in touch with the world around them in a lot of ways.
But the show doesn't only show us Ed and Al, right? The show also shows us Mustang's point of view. And Mustang is a colonel of an army at like in the middle of 5 wars.
Right? Yeah. I just mean those are the people that are talking about it.
Yeah, but they're like, Mustang is so casual in so many of his scenes, and the Fuhrer is so casual that like for me to believe, like I am shocked that there is a trench war going on so close to their capital, because it seems like the military should be more on edge. It seems like the military should be more clamped down than they are, honestly. When we have those scenes in Central, things seem very calm and not wartime. But this episode is new information that there is a trench war going on. Like that is a level of combat that you can't just like hide, because you would have to be sending troops, you'd have to be sending ammunition, you'd have to be sending food and resources, and like the way that would sprinkle into the economy, there should be propaganda about why that war is necessary. There should be that kind of stuff should feel like it's a part of the world. But then like when you're walking through Central, people are like, la da 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 da, I'm a florist. Nobody's discussing any of it. It's not bad. I'm still very much liking the show. I just think the world building is missing tying that into everything else. Because I think that like what is going on for our main characters is so tense. And I think that should be permeating a little bit further out, right? I think that the show sometimes is so focused on the interpersonal drama that it's missing that like there is a larger drama going on here nationwide that just feels a little bit like nobody is aware of it. And I feel like they should be. Because there's phones, right? If you want to like dial down the technology a little bit, you can get away with that a little bit more. But it's kind of like once you put phones into a horror movie, you kind of have to justify why people aren't freaking the fuck out.
Well, I just don't like think that for the story they're trying to tell that any of that is like relevant. Like I think that they're saving time, right? It doesn't really matter what those people are all doing or talking about it, because it's happening and there's nothing that can do. There's nothing to be done about it because the homunculus and the Fuhrer, they have like such a hold. Like they're in charge. They have the power. They're doing whatever they want.
Yeah, no, that is true. I think that for me, that the way the NPCs feel, the way the like not main cast feels about the world really makes it feel lived in. And I think that one of my criticisms about the show going all the way back to the first episode has been that it always feels a little bit empty around our main characters and the world feels small.
Yeah.
Because of the way people run into each other. And I think that maybe that is just what I'm feeling, is that the show is so laser focused on its main characters that the larger world of Amestris and what is going on geopolitically, it is weird to me, honestly, that the Drachmans are lined up for battle today. You know what I mean? Like, we've heard that there's a fort, and we know that Drachma is north of that fort.
Yeah.
And the fact that Kimberly in a day was able to muster them to war just seems very, like, convenient and fast to me.
Well, I don't think Kimberly did much mustering. I think Kimberly showed up and was like, hey, all the people that you've conversed with, all the plans that have been laid, now's the time. We got them out of Briggs. Like, he just seemed like the messenger, which, look, I agree, like, the world feels very small.
That isn't set up there at all.
No, but he's like, oh, they're out of the fort now, so you can attack. That just feels like this has been a plan for a while. It's just they needed the right moment to get Armstrong out of the fort.
And I agree with you. I think that I can assume that is what happened because it isn't in the show. None of that is in the show.
Yeah.
The trench warfare came out of nowhere in the show. And like, there's fighting down south. Okay, there's some fighting down south, and there is a current trench war going on. Aren't the same thing, right? And I think that
what do the trenches have to do with it?
It's a level of combat that is different than there were riots in a city.
Okay.
Right? It is because the way the trench war is fought, the level of resource management that goes into supporting that kind of combat is really economy dense, right? And so in order to be fighting that kind of war along a border, it implies that there is a level of economic involvement from the rest of a country this small to maintain that.
Okay.
And that just affects the world, right? Those kinds of things affect everything all the way down is affected by the need for us to band together to get those resources to the front. And we're sending our boys to war. What does that mean to people?
Right.
And like, that is what is missing because we're so laser focused on Ed and Al. And it's fine. Again, this is esoteric large stuff that is not like this. These were bad episodes. But I do feel like the end of this episode was suddenly like, here's a lot of stuff that doesn't feel supported by the stuff I've seen before it.
I wonder if like, and this is like, I totally hear what you're saying. Like 100%. I'm like, I am trying to like get clarifications. I'm pushing for the questions. I wonder if Amestris has kind of been in this state for so long that and now it's not really set up that that's the state of the world, but nothing has really changed over the course of this show. These like riots, battles, wars, killings, like have kind of been this, maybe have been the state of the country, and that's just what people are used to, and that's how the country like functions.
But they haven't been, right? Because we saw Lior at the beginning of the show.
Lior,
our characters were there.
But I just mean there is a giant circle, right? And there needs to be wanton death at like all of these points in the circles. And so maybe Amestris has literally just been at different states of war and killing for so long that for the people it's not any different. And I'm not saying that that's like in the show somewhere.
I think that the problem, an idea. The problem for me with that is just that I feel that like that isn't hard to establish.
Fair.
But
Fair.
The only issue I'm having with this is not that it is happening.
Yeah.
I'm fine with the fact that it is happening.
It's just a surprise when you're like, oh.
It's that it doesn't feel established by the show that I've been watching.
Yeah.
It feels like we've been watching a show that is relatively at peace, that has had like a city go down. And now in the span of 5 minutes of an episode, suddenly the country to the north that we've only ever heard the name of, but that we like it hasn't even been really established that that they're at war with them.
Well, that's not true.
Just that they're scared that there might be in the future.
No, Armstrong kind of has speech at the beginning where it's like the Drachmans could attack at any time. We're like have a very strenuous like we don't have any relationship with them. Like they are the reason that Fort Briggs exists the way it does is because they are like on the brink of war at all times. That's why they suspect a spy, because it's like this is like a normal everyday thing for them up in the north. And so those tensions are there. We don't spend a lot of time on it because Sloth shows up immediately.
Yeah.
But they immediately they think it's like some Drachman plot or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That is fair, and I think that like some of it's there. I just for me, I think that like the level of death and destruction going on in this country, the alarm bell should be going off, and like people should be freaking the fuck out that like their children are being sent off to war in every direction, and they're just kind of not, and it doesn't.
The general population isn't really like a character in the show. Like, you know how sometimes like people represent like a character and like or like a like the civilization does. Yeah, the general populace is not really like a device, I guess.
Yeah,
within this show.
But the scope of the world is important to the narrative, and like I think you can get away with the country not feeling like a device when the battlefield of your show isn't the country, but because you're going to involve, and I think that like when Fury was sent south, he was like sent south to go do south things. It wasn't we're sending you south to the war that is actively going on.
I think they might have said to the front lines. But I cannot remember the.
And maybe I did. And maybe I just missed that. And maybe that's on me, right?
But it was very throwaway. If that even did happen, like I'm trying to remember, and I'm like, it might have been like, oh, we're sending him to the front lines, but I can't remember the exact.
And I think that people are gonna watch this and think that I'm like harping on the show, and I guess maybe I am, but I like the show a lot. I really do enjoy it. This is a totally this is like a fucking like writing seminar kind of discussion. This is not a review discussion. And I understand that. And I'm sorry that this has gone on so long. I know that people find it really boring when I do this, but for my taste, it's just how I feel about the like the suddenness of like this. And like
I honestly think it's more interesting to talk about like the artistic side of things as opposed to we watched this happen.
I know, but people always hear these discussions and think that I'm like, oh, this is shit, and that's not what I'm saying. Because like I do really like the show. I like the characters a lot. There's just this episode ended with it had so much great stuff in the first half, and I should talk more about that because it is great. I really do think like what's going on with Hohenheim is interesting.
Yeah, it took a turn.
Like what the fuck's going on with Hohenheim? I'm so confused why he was like a drunk in a field 12 episodes ago.
He's immortal. He's
and then
dramatic.
like today he's like on a quest to be a part of the narrative, I guess.
Because he figured out what Father was doing.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, he saw the transmutation circle. And then that's why he went here to see if it was true. He looked for a tunnel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, he like realized he went to one of the points of mass destruction and murder to see if there was like a connection, and then he finds the tunnels and he's like, I can't know what's going on.
Yeah, one of our patrons said in a previous episode where I was talking about the Lior reveal feeling very strange. They were like, well, Mustang is deliberately keeping the Lior stuff from Ed and Al, which doesn't, and their comment is like, which doesn't really work because there's like newspapers and the radio. But that seems to be the show's explanation.
Well, Ed and Al, we've never really seen pay attention to the world. They don't read the fucking newspaper.
But they do though. Like
really?
Yeah,
when?
they're because they're constantly on trains. They're constantly traveling. They're constantly.
Yeah, but they're never. I don't know.
I
I've
know.
never seen them as characters keep up with the world around them.
But a couple of episodes ago, they literally spent 10 minutes sitting around a map talking about all the things going on in the country. You know what I mean? And like they clearly care about that stuff. It's just this weird. It's this weird tension.
Were there other people telling them about the things that were happening, or am I?
Yeah, about a bunch of different like battles and stuff.
Yeah,
from the past. I totally get that. Again, this is not like show ruining for me. It is just a conversation about how I do feel like the world around these characters, it feels smaller than I want it to.
Yeah.
Because I like them so much, and I like their narrative so much that I just wish that it felt fully fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It feels like a television show that didn't have enough money to pay for extras sometimes,
or didn't have the money for more time. Like these episodes are so short that it feels like this is a story that we're going to tell, and this is what is necessary to tell that story.
No, but it's an intentional choice. Like showing the like automail place as being as like calm and cheery as they do every time they call Winry, right? Like there's no, we don't see the wear and tear of this much destruction on the citizens of this place.
I see.
They seem like everybody, every time they meet people, everyone is so happy. And I think that maybe that's what it is. There is so much awful shit happening in this country. They're being bombed on multiple fronts. A whole city fucking ate itself. You know what I mean? And people just all kind of are, the NPCs of this world are all kind of, oh, hey guys.
Yeah.
Do you want a cup of tea?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And I think maybe that's it. It feels like the show was like, they're like a 7-hour train ride away. It would be like if there was a war going on in Ottawa or Montreal.
Yeah.
Right? Like that would be close enough that we'd be like, hey, there's a war going on in Montreal.
Yeah.
You know? Because they've kind of established how big Amestris is, some of this stuff gets weird. Like, how did Kimberly get north of the wall? Is a question that, like, I guess he just did, you know? And those are the things that
Tunnels,
make...
maybe?
Okay,
sure.
Maybe there's another tunnel.
I don't know.
But those are the things that kind of make the show feel small.
Yeah.
When you're like, it's the same day, Kimberly's on the other side. Oh, okay. You know, those are the things that kind of like get in the way of my enjoyment of stuff because I just kind of am sitting here being like, yeah,
people are exactly where they need to be.
And once I start going, yeah, I guess that's how it works. That's where I feel like I start to lose a show. And this episode, despite having so much cool stuff, also had a bunch of like, yeah, sure, that's convenient. And it's unfortunate because I think that like the last like 5-6 before it, it felt really solid and felt really like story driven and character driven in a fun way. And this one just kind of made me, I feel like I'm scratching my hair right now, just going like, not really because I put gel in today and I don't want to ruin it. But,
it looks good.
I feel like I'm sitting here kind of trying to like parse through the reveals of this episode and the sort of like timey-wimey travel stuff that is starting to happen in the show that happened in Game of Thrones. And it happened in the episode with Armstrong getting down to Central already.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh yeah, she left. She's already there. Okay, cool.
Yeah, everything feels like it's 2 hours away.
Well, but and especially in that moment, because that was in the time it took them to drive to the fucking town. You know what I mean?
Or maybe we're just so used to Canada.
But it gets into the other side of it, where like I'm buying that the country's a small country. How is it fighting all of these wars and no one's freaking the fuck out?
Right. Yeah, it's like, one or the other.
This show wants to have it both ways. It wants to be so big that a whole city can burn itself to the ground and people don't really talk about that.
Because if a whole city was burning in riots, there would be people fleeing, and if the next town was an hour away,
there would be refugees
get there, you know?
everywhere.
Like,
right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, this show is also small enough that like you can get anywhere really quickly, and so like it. Yeah, the both sidesedness of that isn't my favorite. And this episode goes to, you know what it is? The episodes that don't talk about the bigger shit really work for me.
Yeah.
Because the bigger shit in the show is the stuff that like never really lines up.
It's not set up very well. Like
all the way ever since Xerxes, every time they try and go somewhere, it just kind of feels like how, and it's why I asked today while we were doing this reaction, I asked how long do you think has passed during the course of the show?
Right.
And it's because I don't understand that. Because that trench war has been going on for like, that's weeks of trenches, right? Like that war has at least been going on for a month.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure alchemists were like, boom, trenches, like.
Maybe. Is there an alchemist? Like, I guess maybe there's an alchemist down there.
I mean, they
where's Armstrong?
Good question. Yeah, they do have alchemists. Alchemists are part of the military, so it stands to reason that somebody probably just did that. But like I said, I don't know because the show definitely does not like set that up.
It just suddenly felt very important to understand all of those things, and also I don't understand all of those things.
Right.
And
the show was just like, here's a bunch of information, and you're gonna take our word for it. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
And sorry if this discussion wasn't what you wanted. I just this episode really threw me through a loop.
Well, I think it's one of those things where those little details are not that big of a deal, but the rest of the show is so good, and there is like both of us like really love certain elements of it, that those just feel like a bigger like more of a letdown, which I think is why it feels more like unsettling, right? When like if you have no expectations of a thing, you can't really be let down by it. But if you're like the highs of the show are so up here, I wish all of those details were at that level. It's a little more it's more disappointing, as opposed to
That's
like,
fair.
oh, it's just what it is, right? You know, you hold the show to a standard. And this show has a very high standard for a lot of its storytelling and emotional life.
Well, and I enjoyed the first episode of this reaction so much, even though I kind of bristled at the first conversation, like I said. But then, like, by the end of that episode really ties together in such a really wonderful way.
Yeah.
And maybe I just need to focus more on that. But it is tough when I want everything to. I have very high standards.
Yeah, no, and for a show that it meets a lot of those standards in a way, like, I think that it's totally fair to have feelings of like this is not holding up in the way the rest of it does, and I know that it can, and I want it to, and it should, right? Because like the people working on the show are clearly very capable.
Yeah.
I find that I get hit harder by things that maybe Game of Thrones season 8, for example.
Yeah.
I hate season 8 so much because Game of Thrones is one of my favorite shows.
No, 100%. I get
and
that.
it is just such a blatant disappointment, and that hurts me emotionally more than just watching something that's like, yeah, okay, it's fine.
But,
right?
But and I hate to say this, but I feel like one of the major complaints about the later seasons of Game of Thrones, I could levy at this show.
Oh, the like people showing up wherever they need to?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And that has gotten worse. Like, I feel like the people showing up where they need to started halfway through the show.
Oh, I have always kind of felt like that was just the show, and so it was like, it was just one of those things that I was like, oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like the last few episodes of the show have had that. And again, like, that bugged me in Game of Thrones, but it didn't ruin the show for me. And it bugs me here, doesn't ruin the show for me. Right?
Yeah.
For me, it's like, okay, it's a little convenient, whatever. I think like Kimberly suddenly having an army of Drachmans is way more weird and convenient than, because yeah. And it's tough because like there's so much great stuff. The conversation with Pride in this episode is so interesting and cool.
Yeah.
And like I wish I'd spent the last 15 minutes talking about that instead of just being like, meh.
Whatever, we got time.
But the thing that's weird to me is that sometimes these episodes end on the thing that I find the most off-putting.
Right, and so it's what's fresh in your mind. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the conversation about the container and like what like the limits and restrictions are. Because look, if Pride was the thing that just lived in all the shadows, that would be so, like, what the fuck would you do about that, right?
I don't know what you do about him as is.
I mean, fair. But at least he has some kind of restrictions. You know what I mean? Like establishing those limits and restrictions makes him more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely agree with that. I think that Pride being so prideful that he thinks that he's the original and that Father is a derivative of him is very interesting. Like, I think that as an idea, that is a really nice touch in order to like point at, because honestly, I haven't felt a lot of pride from him. I felt a lot of judgment from him, which isn't the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so this was kind of the first time where I really understood how he was Pride and how he like exhibited the emotion of Pride as an entity. And I thought that was really well established in that conversation. And you know, but even like that didn't really, and this is where the show gets a little weird for me, is like, how did Hohenheim get back to the lake? So Hohenheim walks down the tunnel into another piece of the tunnel, but different. And then
there was the alchemy marks on it.
Sure. So I guess Pride can't go in there. But then the next time we see Hohenheim, he somehow went back through Pride to the lake.
Oh, yeah. Pride fucked off and disappeared, so he just waited. I mean, I'm assuming he just waited until Pride left and then was like, all right, I'm going to go back.
Sure.
Because he didn't go very far,
But
right?
Pride is
From
always
the exit.
everywhere in there. It's not like Pride is always in the tunnels. Right? Like, Pride can be anywhere in the tunnels at any time. Unless he just happened to be in the area when Hohenheim was there. Do you know what I mean? Like, those are the kinds of things where, like, it doesn't matter how Hohenheim got out. It only matters how he got in.
Right. I hear what you're
Because
saying.
they got to the conversation, had the conversation, and then how Hohenheim escaped that situation doesn't matter. But to me, it kind of does.
To be fair.
Because that implies that, like, Pride let him leave.
To be fair, Hohenheim, in his tunnel, could have made a tunnel back to his bridge and left.
Sure.
And look, the show does not establish this. This is me making shit
Yeah.
up to, like, justify it. And there is a way to do it, I guess. But you're right. The show is like, nah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, for a show that is usually so tight about that stuff, in my opinion, and does a really good job, this episode just felt like it was a little loose.
Okay.
It was a little like, we kind of have to get stuff in place for another thing. So, like, we're going to kind of just, like, shove it all in this episode so that we can move on next week.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you.
And sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you're just like, you know what, the big stuff's next episode. This episode just kind of...
deadline.
But that is the reality of it, right? And, like,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to do that. And I think that they did that here, too, in a way that, like, it was fine. I didn't hate it. I think if you listen to this conversation, you might think I hate it. I didn't hate it. I just was kind of like, okay, who are these people?
Yeah.
Why do the Drachmans hate the Amestrians? I don't know.
They're just two countries at war. I don't know, like...
Sure.
Why do we need two countries to hate one another?
Usually there's
million
very
reasons.
specific reasons that
But
the people involved
could be anything.
are highly aware of. Yeah, but again, it's not the, like, it isn't that they're at war. That is my question.
Mm-hmm.
It's what did Father do to get them at war?
Right. There's no, like, posters that's like, Drachma, spy, assassinates
Drachmans,
person.
those
like,
Drachmans are gonna come fight us.
Drachmans are the Oogie Boogie Man. Like,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
And yeah, I think that, like, some of that cultural specificity is kind of missing in the show.
All right.
Just a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Because it seems like the Ishval Civil War happened, and so that part of it's done. And so it seems like, and when they were talking about the battles, and when they were drawing the map, it seemed like they were like, this battle happened down south, so that's done. Like, the thing's written. So why are they still at war there? What's the like, I understand why there needs to be a fight here, because this Circle of Blood hasn't been written yet.
Uh-huh.
But the other Circles of Blood were written first. This is the last one. So why are they still fighting down there? Or do they need more bloodshed? I'm confused. I'm just confused.
Fighting is ongoing.
Sorry, this was a very long conversation, and I'm just confused. But the show is very good, and I like the characters a lot, so that's fine. Also, fuck you, Zapoli, or Zapanya, whatever your name is.
Right, yeah.
Warthog man.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. He makes more sense to me than the other three.
Sure.
You know? If I was like, I want my original body back, I go to the people who made me into the thing that I am. They might be the ones who are able to solve it. But being like, these people, maybe they can figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I understand it. I understand where he's coming from. He's evil, and I hate him. And, you know.
He's a drunk.
He's a drunk?
That's the literal only information we know about them is when the two of them are arguing in the downstairs.
Oh, yeah, he drinks
and
that
he's
shit.
like, you don't even know your kid because you keep drinking. And, like, it's just, like, that's the only thing we know about this guy. And it's like, oh, I guess, yeah, he betrayed them. Sure.
You know what? Maybe it's just a PSA so kids don't drink and drive. If you like this episode, if you watched that whole conversation, I don't even know if we're going to put the whole conversation on YouTube. That was long. But if you like the episode, like and subscribe to the channel. If you don't, hit the dislike button. Leave me comments down below because the algorithm god is hungry and we must feed her. This episode, that algorithm goddess is...
Who was in this episode?
Winry. And May. They're the only women.
Barely.
We saw Lust again in an image.
Yes, it's Lust. It's
Yeah.
Laura Bailey. Is
Laura
the
Bailey.
Goddess, yes.
If you want to follow us on the internet, you can. I'm at Nerdy Nightly.
I'm at Claris Polaris.
Do something nerdy tonight, y'all.
Bye.